player, and that is going to be Isiah Pacheco. And Pacheco, Kansas City Chiefs running back, he's a guy we don't talk about often, but I think now is about the right time. His ADP is up 4.3 spots, and his overall draft position is 28.4. Pete, what do you think of Isiah Pacheco?
Yeah, I think Isiah Pacheco is kind of he is like the most like stability kind of pick that you can take early in drafts here, right? Like if you miss out on some of the high upside guys, like Pacheco just feels like a guy who's he's just gonna get a steady dose of like 12 to 15 point games. He's not gonna blow the game out of the water and have your 30-point games and provide much, which kind of sucks if you're taking a guy in his position. You want a little bit more upside. But unfortunately, I don't see a ton of upside there. I think he's probably got like running back 7 to 10 potential, but he's not going to provide a ton of big games, in my opinion. I think this offense as a whole takes a step forward in terms of last year. They got more weapons at the pass catcher position, which kind of limits the amount of targets that Pacheco is going to get. The only saving grace I would mention is that Patrick Mahomes, his average depth of target, he was one of the highest when it comes to throwing the ball between 0 to 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. Like he was in that threshold for like being one of the highest quarterbacks in the NFL to throw at that depth of target. So I think that bodes well for Pacheco to get a bump in terms of receptions, but I do worry with a lot more playmakers, a lot more options that we could see less red zone carries for him. The only thing I'd say is they didn't really add to this room very much. I mean, they added the one kid, I think the rugby player from overseas. He might not make the team. He might be a gadget guy who plays special teams. So I don't know. I happen to like Pacheco, but I think I'm fizzing out on him a little bit, just because I'm so enamored by this Kansas City Chiefs offense from a passing standpoint. But there will be opportunities. I know there's a lot of options there, but if we expect this offense to be high powered, he should be fine for a fantasy 7 to 10 finish. There is that opportunity in the range of outcomes. I just don't think he has the opportunity to finish much higher than that.
Yeah, I'm in on Pacheco. I think his price point is right about there. Now, last year, he only played in 14 games. He was the RB15 in PPR and the RB14 in points per game. So he managed to finish as a top 15 running back despite missing a couple of games. Now, can we get a full season out of Pacheco? I think it's possible, but he's only 5'10", 216, and he's a violent runner. That type of running style, that can get you banged up and out of games. Last year, he suffered through a few injuries. Again, a concussion in week 16 and a sprained shoulder that forced him out of 3 games. So if he's running that violently, I hate to pencil a guy for a couple of games missed, but I think it's something to put in our projections. But still, I don't mind for where we're getting him and the fact that he did finish as a top 15 PPR running back on an offense that last year only ran the ball. They were 25th in run plays per game. They weren't running a ton, and this passing attack wasn't great. So I'm in on Pacheco. Very good running back, just shy of 1,000 yards rushing, adds another 44 receptions for 244 yards, 9 total touchdowns. I'd be fine getting a similar season. And last year, he did prove he can be the primary rusher. McKinnon, who's no longer there, he was barely a factor. CEH, I'm drafting him as a free handcuff. The reports are saying Deneric Prince is getting the primary number 2 handoffs right now. Take that for what you will. But there's really no other significant threat in this backfield. So when Pacheco is healthy, he should be the guy.
Yeah, my issue with Pacheco. So I'll provide 2 things here. One, he's at my tier break where I'm starting to move Joe Mixon into the end of his tier. But he is a tier break for me. After Pacheco, you have guys like Josh Jacobs. You have guys like Rashad White. Rashad White is similar, is probably going to provide a high floor, but I don't know what his ceiling is going to be. But I mean, guys that you can get around Isiah Pacheco, Mark Andrews, Nico Collins, and this is all based on FFPC ADP as of today, which is the high stakes. You know, we partner with the FFWC, but they're both high stakes leagues, and these are the people that they're spending big money. You know, a lot of times you get in these smaller, you know, the $2, the $3, the $10 best ball leagues, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you can take a lot more chances because there's not as much money on the line, right? So you want to swing for more upside. You don't want to look at safer plays. Guys like Jalen Waddle, like Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle, Mark Andrews. I probably prefer Pacheco over Mike Evans, but like even at this point, like depending on your league, like Josh Allen goes like 2 spots behind Pacheco, in my opinion, right? Like Josh Allen is a chance to, I don't like to draft quarterbacks high, but like if I could take Josh Allen, who's an elite player at his position, who you know is going to give you probably at worst the QB3 finish, unless he gets hurt and this is a disastrous season, you're going to be able to get a top 3 player at his position, or you're getting Isiah Pacheco, who at that point, there's not much variance between him and the guys that are going after him, like Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, and I want to say Rashad White and James Cook. So, yeah, I mean, I probably prefer to swing at elite talent. You have Mark Andrews that goes right there as well. So I like Pacheco, but there are guys on the board at other positions that I prefer, that I might be okay just punting Pacheco and settling for a guy like James Cook in the next round, who you can probably get. So,
I mean, I get what you're saying there, but if you want a running back around that ADP, I'm taking Pacheco over Josh Jacobs. And, you know, I view them very similar, but all the reports out of Green Bay and the tendencies of the past with the LaFleur offense, they're going to use multiple backs. Even the rookie Marshawn Lloyd is getting some early hype right now. And I think he might have been banged up at camp, but they're already saying, hey, he could have an early role. He's the most, has the most diverse skill set as a pass catcher. They still have A.J. Dillon. They're saying he's in the best shape of his life. James Cook, I don't love it. And they have Ray Davis, who I think could make an impact if he's at least competent as an in between the tackles runner. So like I'd rather have Pacheco over those two, and Pacheco isn't sexy. Like none of his metrics pop to me. Like 26 yards per touch, 23rd and true yards per carry, 27th evaded tackles, 11th in breakaway runs. Like nothing truly special. But again, he's a violent runner, and those types of runners, they're going to score the football. They're going to pick up those extra yards, and I'm fine with that. I think he's a high floor stability running back, and I'm fine if that's the type of player I want to draft there.
Yeah. And the only thing I would say is, the benefit that he has is a better passing game with better receivers, should not load the box nearly as much. I mean, last year Pacheco faced was 22nd. He was 22nd in loaded boxes. So, he was it wasn't like he was getting crushed. You have guys like Derrick Henry faced the most at 280. Kyron Williams, out of all starting running backs last year, faced the least amount of stacked boxes. So I think there's some benefit to that, where teams are probably going to have to bring an extra defensive back on the field and probably take a linebacker off the field or a defensive lineman. And Pacheco should be able to see a lot more wiggle room prior to taking contact. So that should help his yards per carry. I would put money on it go up this season, just off of that alone. I mean, he had 4.6 yards per carry last year, so maybe it won't go up, but I could see him maintaining that this season. And so, yeah, I don't hate Pacheco. Like Anthony said, he's just not sexy. But Will did come in here and say, if he's pushed into a wide receiver, quarterback start, he likes Pacheco. Yeah, that's kind of my feelings on Pacheco too. Like if I already have a running back at the point that Pacheco's on the board at that ADP, I'm probably going for a guy around him. But if I haven't taken a running back, he is at the end of my tier. So it's going to really just depend on the draft and the situation. I'm not fading Pacheco. I actually happen to like him. There's a lot of elite talent around him, and it's just going to matter of what my team looks like in those first 2 rounds when I get to him in the 3rd or 4th. So